This is a good venue for talking a little bit about the geology of Trinidad. The Northern Range Mountains are the product of the collision of two tectonic plates, one of which rode under the other and lifted the mountain range. Apparently, they're relatively young. They consist of a diversity of stones. There's some pockets of limestone, some loosely packed sedimentary rock, a lot of metamorphic rock. But when you have this kind of uplifting in combination with heavy rainfall, what you get is very heavy erosion. And what you can see here upstream are a series of small waterfalls, and then you can see that the banks on the side of the stream are very steep. Generally, what we find in our study sites is that the streams flow through these very steep-sided ravines, and as a consequence of the erosion, are punctuated with waterfalls. This one, you have the one in the foreground, and then there's another one behind it that you can see above. So the total drop over a fairly short distance here is probably on the order of 10 meters or more, and we see this very often. It's the steepness in these waterfalls that defines what this area is like as a study site. The waterfalls are very frequently the barriers to the upstream dispersal of fish, and it's what creates these discrete communities. You have one type of community underneath the waterfall and a different type of community above the waterfall. So you can look at guppies in different contexts, guppies that live with predators below the waterfall versus without the predators above the fall, and yet the environment is very much the same. The only difference between them is the presence or absence of the predators as created by the barrier waterfalls. The other thing is that if you look at these steep embankments, they're covered by vegetation, and so they have sort of a soft and inviting appearance. But if you strip that vegetation away, what you would have instead would be forbiddingly steep cliffs and rocky cliff faces and boulders, so that it's a very steep and challenging kind of terrain to walk through. What we do when we're accessing our sites most often is that we use the river as our roadway. The river is a predictable, level pathway through much of the forest, except when you happen to hit these waterfalls. And when we meet waterfalls or steep rocky chasms that the river's running through, then we have to construct trails up and around them. Sometimes we actually climb up through them, but we usually try to find a safe path. But the interesting thing is that the river, more often than not, is our pathway to our study sites.